Have you ever wondered what it felt like to be completely alone in a medieval city with nothing but the clothes on your back and no one waiting for you anywhere? Join us to explore this dramatic and surprising story now. The night presses heavy around you as you curl up beside the damp wall of a crumbling stone building in Bruges. Your cloak is too thin. Your stomach grumbles like it's gnawing its own insides, and the cobblestones beneath you feel more like broken teeth than a bed. You're maybe 8, maybe 10 years blur when you've never had a birthday. You don't remember your parents. Maybe you did once, maybe not. What you remember is being left. Not just forgotten left. You clutch a crust of hard bread you traded for a copper button earlier. It tastes like dust and glue. A rat eyes you from under a barrel. You eye it back. No one's afraid of the dark here. The dark is warm, soft, and honest compared to the city's daylight cruelties. Bruges is beautiful, they say. Spires like stone fingers. Canals that mirror the sky. But you don't see postcards. You see slippery docks and men who yell at you for being in the way. You know the alleyways behind the bakeries and how to catch the scent of stew wafting from open shutters and imagine it's yours. You know where not to sleep, which doorsteps have dogs, which corners have men who don't just steal bread. As bells echo from a faraway tower, you shift under your blanket of dirt and cold. Across the alley, another small figure shifts under a pile of burlap sacks. You've seen her before, never spoken. She's missing 2 fingers. You don't ask how. No one asks how, and no one tells. There's a myth among the orphans that if you survive 7 winters alone, the city starts to leave you gifts. Bread loaves, coins, even a name. Of course, no one's made it to winter 6 and still been able to count. Still, there's strange kindness sometimes. An old washerwoman once threw you a boiled egg. A traveling monk gave you half a candle stub. And last week, a merchant's son dropped a wooden toy soldier from his cart and didn't take it back when you ran up with it. Of course, his friends laughed and called you maggot boy, but you kept the toy. Sometimes it stares at you at night like it remembers a life you weren't meant for. A dog barks. You sit up fast. Footsteps. Loud, fast, armored. City guards. Your heart hammers. Not again. Not like the boy last month. He ran. They chased. He never came back. You press your body against the wall, trying to vanish into the bricks. The armored figures stomp past, laughing about stolen apples. You hold your breath for 27 heartbeats. You count every one. When it's quiet again, you exhale so slowly it barely makes sound, and you wonder again how many other children are tucked into shadows like yours. They say in cities like Paris and London, hundreds of you live like rats. Some say the plague made orphans by the thousands. Some say it made people colder quicker to abandon burdens. No one knows how many children are dropped at convent steps each year, or how many just vanish into alleys like this one. Historians still debate whether medieval families truly loved their children the way modern families do. There are letters full of grief and tenderness, but also records of children traded, abandoned, or sold. One bishop wrote of finding a baby in a basket with a note that read, "Better here than under hoof," and no one ever found the mother. You curl up again. The cold bites, but the fear has dulled. Above you, the stars hang over the city like distant silver needles, and you wonder sod if someone will save you. But whether you'll still be here when the bells ring tomorrow. The next morning, you wake not to sunlight, but to a sharp jab in your ribs. Boy, a voice says, "You dead." You blink blearily at the boy crouching over you. He's a little older, maybe 12, wearing a ragged tunic. that once belonged to someone far bulkier. His hair is cropped short and his eyebrows arch like he's always making fun of the world. "You're not dead," he concludes. "Too bad. I could have used your boots." You don't reply. They're not even proper boots, just scraps of leather tied with string, but they're yours. The boy grins. "Come on, we got a job." You follow. Not because you trust him. There's no such thing in this city, but because he's moving. And that means warmth, maybe food, maybe something that doesn't feel like dying slowly. His name, you find out, is Bram. He doesn't ask, yours doesn't care. Names are for clerks and tombstones. Bram takes you through winding alleys and under broken fences to a small ruined courtyard hidden behind a crumbling warehouse. There are 5 other kids already there, sitting in a rough circle. One is missing an eye, one has a pet crow, and one Joris speaks in a strange dialect that sounds like French choking on gravel. They call themselves the Ragged Brotherhood. They steal food from carts, chase pigeons for sport, and once claimed they made a ghost cry by sneaking into a crypt at midnight. You're skeptical. The one-eyed boy Geert tells the story with a smirk that suggests it was just an old nun yelling. You sit with them. No one welcomes you. But no one pushes you out either. That's enough. They move like a pack. One distracts the baker. One trips a merchant's assistant, and someone else usually. Bram grabs a loaf of sausage or, if they're lucky, a meat pie. You're not good at it. Not yet. But you're quiet, fast, small. Bram starts calling you Whisper. You almost smile. Their leader is a girl named Liskin. Taller than the rest, with a long cut across her chin, and a voice that never rises above a murmur. She's the one who doles out food when it's scarce. She's also the one who tells the stories at night about treasure hidden under a cathedral, about an orphan who became a knight, about a boy who climbed a clock tower and spoke to the moon. Lies, Geert says, rolling his eye. Hope, Liskin answers. You laugh a little. It's strange how it feels. Your voice sounds rusty. That night, you lie beside the others under an awning near the fish market. It smells like rotted seaweed and bad luck, but it's dry. You have half a potato in your pocket, stolen from a drunk cook's cart. Bram sees it, but doesn't take it. That means something. People talk about gangs of children like this with fear, like they're a disease crawling through the streets. There are city records calling them vagrant infestations. One magistrate even recommended boiling lice from the youth population with tar. But if anyone had looked close, they would have seen something more complicated: children making rules, forming bonds, even offering each other loyalty in a world that offered them none. You notice this odd thing. After a few days, they don't just steal food. They also trade things. A rusty spoon for a broken comb. A song for a favor. A joke for a warm spot under a broken stall. And there are rules. Never take more than you can carry. Never run alone. Never leave someone behind unless they scream the code word Clayfoot. You don't know why that word. Maybe it's just weird enough that it doesn't get said by accident. There's also a myth. They all know somewhere in the city is a secret room hidden beneath the guild hall, or a ruined abbey where the founders of the Ragged Brotherhood carved their names in soot and blood. If you find that place, you get to make a wish. No one's ever found it, but they keep looking. One day, you ask Bram why he stays with them. He shrugs. Safer than alone, he says. And funnier most days. Later that night, the Brotherhood gathers around a candle stub while Liskin retells the story of a boy who outsmarted a cruel merchant by dressing as a ghost and haunting him for weeks until he gave up his gold. Did it happen, you ask? Historians still debate whether anything ever happens, she says deadpan. Everyone laughs. It's the kind of laugh that only makes sense when the world is horrible, because laughter means you're still alive. You don't know how long you'll stay. No one does. Children vanish. People betray. The Brotherhood could fall apart tomorrow, but for now, you are Whisper. You belong to something, even if it's only a half promise made by hungry mouths under a dripping roof. And that in a city that forgot you existed is something. You're running again, not because you stole anything this time though, that's happened plenty, but because the Brotherhood's usual alley has been swept. That's what Bram calls it when the guards come through with torches and boots, cracking sticks and yelling about vermin. They don't care if you're 9 or 15. They grab who they can scare off the rest and dump the unlucky ones in cells, workhouses, or worse. So you scatter. You slip through a sewage grate you've never used before, crawl along a narrow tunnel that stinks of mold and damp hay, and emerge barely into a courtyard behind a cathedral you've only ever seen from a distance. It's quiet here, too quiet. Even the city's noise seems to hush itself near the cathedral walls. The stones rise high above you like frozen music. Gargoyles leer from the roof. The scent of incense bleeds faintly through the air. You should leave, but something about the place draws you in. You duck through a side door, propped open for air perhaps, and find yourself in a side chapel. Cool, quiet, cavernous. Colored light pours from stained glass windows onto ancient floors worn smooth by centuries of footsteps. You hear muffled singing from deeper inside a choir, gentle and strange, almost like humming. Then you see him, a priest, older, kind-eyed, with robes too clean. For someone who understands the street spots, you crouched behind a pillar. He doesn't shout, doesn't call for help, just walks slowly over and crouches beside you, holding out a small loaf of dark bread wrapped in linen. You take it but warily. There's always a catch. I know you, he says softly. Not your name, but your kind. You don't speak. You can stay if you like. Safe for the night. There's soup. You want to believe him. You really do. He brings you to a low room behind the altar where a fire crackles and 3 other children sit eating quietly. One is blind in one eye. One has a burn scar curling up her neck. The third won't stop coughing. You eat. The soup is thin but warm. The priest, Father Nicholas, is gentle. He tells you stories about saints who fed the poor, about Christ blessing children, about how every soul matters. He doesn't ask you questions, doesn't demand prayers. It almost feels like a trick. Later, you notice a locked door at the back of the room. It's not just bolted, it's chained. And there's a strange smell seeping from behind it. Wax maybe, or something burned. That night, you sleep on a straw pallet and wake up without fear gnawing your chest. That alone feels suspicious. In the morning, Father Nicholas is gone. A younger monk offers you a choice stay and help clean the chapel, or leave quietly and not speak of what you saw. You choose to stay, for now, but whispers find their way to you. A girl who used to sleep where you did gone, vanished. A city orphan turned altar boy also disappeared. A boy from the tanner's quarter says his sister was brought here last month and never came home. Sometimes they sell them girt whispers when you return briefly to the Brotherhood. Sometimes they burn them. He's joking. Maybe. You start noticing things. Father Nicholas always locks his study. There's a black book on his desk with a chained clasp. The choir never smiles. Once you pass the chained door and hear Bisamo breathing, or sobbing, or maybe just the wind, historians still debate whether church sanctuaries truly served as protection for the poor and desperate. In some cases, yes, monasteries ran orphanages, gave out food, offered shelter. But there were darker chapters too. There are documented accounts of priests using their authority to discipline wayward children in horrifying ways. And though not every rumor was true enough, one fringe chronicle from from 1473 describes a hidden crypt beneath a Flemish cathedral where the bones of dozens of children were discovered. No names, no markings, no explanations. The document was later dismissed as hysterical fabrication. But the cathedral it describes still stands. You don't know what's behind the door. You don't want to know, so you leave before dawn with only your toy soldier, your stolen crust, and a new word carved into your soul: caution. The city welcomes you back with filthy streets, barking dogs, and a sky that drizzles just enough to soak through your rags. But somehow, even that feels more honest than the incense-scented hush of the cathedral. You slip down a side street looking for Liskin, for Bram, for the Brotherhood, and you wonder how many other places promising safety are really just cages with stained glass. You find Liskin again 2 days later, crouched under the ruined eaves of a collapsed wine cellar, sharpening a stick with the edge of a broken comb. She doesn't look up when you approach, just says, "Heard you went priest hopping." You grunt. It's the kind of reply that means long story, not now. She tosses you a half-eaten pear that smells a few days too ripe. "Brotherhood's moved," she says. "City's changing. Too many sweeps, too many eyes." And just like that, you're part of the current again, washing up against a new place, the foundling home. It's not your idea. You're caught. A night too slow, a guard too fast. Instead of beatings or chains, you get paperwork. You're processed. A pale clerk with ink-stained hands writes your name, not yours, just something he decides for you, age guessed, and condition filthy, obviously. Then you're marched through a long stone hall that smells like boiled linen and dried milk into a place called the Kinderhuis. There are 40 beds, none of them soft. 40 children, none of them laughing. The foundling home is a new world, not quite freedom, not quite prison. A space carved out between abandonment and administration. You're given a number. You're given a tunic. You're told the rules. No talking after prayers. No eating without permission. No touching the stair railings. No one explains this one. No names, just numbers. Your number is 37. It's stitched onto your collar, your blanket, your chamber pot. You are 37. A half being defined by ink and thread, the caretaker. Sister Bertilde is kind in a way that feels dangerous. She smiles with all her teeth. She calls you dear one, and then serves you a bowl of porridge so thin it might weep if it were any sadder. You eat every drop. You're not stupid. There are punishments here, but they're soft around the edges, silent things. A girl loses her shoes for a week. A boy is made to kneel on beans for stealing crusts. You learn to fake prayers. You learn to look grateful. Historians still debate whether institutions like the Kinderhuis helped children escape poverty or merely reshaped it into something more acceptable. Some records show successful apprenticeships, even adoptions. Others show harsh punishments, death by neglect, and children disappearing from the books with nothing but a note transferred. You hear about transfers late at night. That's when the older children talk after prayers, after Sister Bertilde's candlelight fades under the door. They whisper of a girl who went to the weavers and never came back. A boy sent to the mines. A baby that cried too much and was just taken. It's a strange thing being half safe. You have walls. You have food. You have a roof that doesn't leak unless it rains hard. But you have no say, no choice. And every kindness here seems to ask for a debt you didn't agree to. You spend your days laundering sheets, darning socks, brushing chamber pots with stiff, splintering brooms. You learn to mend holes in your own tunic with stitches so tight they might hold your ribs together. You make two friends. One A girl named Yuta is missing an ear and can pick any lock with a fishbone. The other, Elias, is quiet, twitchy, and hums songs with no words. They trust you just enough to share part of a heel of bread when Sister Bertilda isn't looking. It's the richest thing you've tasted in weeks. And then there's the bell room. No one speaks of it in daylight. But the foundling home has an attic chamber with one thick iron-banded door. Sometimes at night a bell rings once. Just once. The older kids say it's where they keep the bad ones. The broken ones. Some say it's empty, just a story to keep you in line. One night, you wake to Yuta standing over you, pale in the moonlight. "You ever hear screaming?" she whispers. "Bite your tongue. Bite hard." Why? Because if you scream too, they might think it's you. You sleep with your blanket over your head after that. The smell of soap and old wood filling your nose, pretending it's protection. One day, you're lined up for inspection. A woman in rich clothes walks the row, looking each child up and down like she's choosing meat for a stew. She taps 4 children on the shoulder. Not you. No one knows where they go. The cook just nods. Sister Bertilda smiles. And the names vanish from the board. At the foundling home, you learn something hard. It's possible to be safe and terrified at the same time. To have food and still starve for something real. To have adults around you constantly and feel more abandoned than ever. So you wait and you watch. And every night, as the candlelight flickers and the bell doesn't ring, you think about Bram, Liskin, the Brotherhood, and you wonder who's still out there and whether they remember Whisper. It begins with a scratch in your throat. Just a tickle. At first, dry air, you think. Or maybe it's the soap fumes from scrubbing chamber pots. But by nightfall, it burns like nettles, and your nose is running like the canals after rain. You try to hide it. You've seen what happens to the sick. Too late. In the morning, Sister Bertilde touches your forehead with her cold, damp fingers and makes a clucking noise that sounds a little too satisfied. To the infirmary, she says. 37 is infected. The infirmary is a separate building across the narrow courtyard, a low-roofed stone hut with tiny windows and the smell of rot baked into its walls. You're led there with 3 other children. One is coughing wetly. One won't open her eyes. The third just mumbles to himself about butterflies and fire. You're placed on a straw mattress beside a cracked window and given a bowl of water, so cloudy it seems offended at being called water. No food, no blankets, no warmth. Yuta once whispered about this place. Get sick enough, she said, they stop calling you by your number. Then they stop calling you at all. You sleep in fragments. Fever dreams make the wooden rafters look like snakes. The shadows shift. At one point, you think you hear Sister Bertilda's voice through the wall, calm and matter-of-fact. We'll mark this one for quiet release. No records. The next morning, the boy beside you is gone. No one says anything. You turn your face to the wall and pretend to be worse than you are. Better to be forgotten than marked. Historians still debate whether mortality rates in foundling homes were due to neglect or simply the harsh realities of pre-modern medicine. Some 15th century institutions claimed a 70% death rate among infants within the first year. Others falsified records entirely. One English document from 1478 coldly notes 16 taken with cough, 8 now interred, cause unclear. You begin to recover. Slowly. The others do not. And then one night, in the midst of your damp, scratchy fever haze, something bizarre happens. You hear singing, a soft, high voice too clear for the infected to be making. You peek from under your blanket. A girl, maybe 9, barefoot, pale as candle wax, is standing at the edge of your mattress. She puts a finger to her lips. Then she slips a crust of bread under your pillow. and vanishes through the wall. You blink. You're hallucinating. Fever dream. Except the crust is real, and when you wake the next morning, a tiny tin whistle lies where the bread was. No one else saw her, or admits to it. The whistle doesn't play a note no matter how hard you try. Elias, who appears in the infirmary after a nasty fall, looks at it once and mutters, "That's a dead child's promise." You keep that close. You do. You heal somehow. No medicine, just time and will. You limp back to the main dormitory on legs that feel like reeds hollow and sore. Yuta hugs you, quick and sharp, like a bird landing, then gone again. "The bell rang while you were gone," she whispers, twice. Later that night, you overhear Sister Bertilde complaining to another caretaker. "Too many sick," she says. "Too many mouths. We'll have to call the list again." That word call makes something freeze in your chest. You sit up all night, staring at the dark wooden beams above, clutching the tin whistle. You don't blow it. Not yet. That same week, the kitchen stew tastes more watery than usual. The bread is moldy. The linen hasn't been changed in days. You see a girl brushing out her hair with a fork. The foundling home is unraveling at the edges. Rumors swirl. The city's funds are drying up. The local bishop is feuding with the alderman. A new tax means fewer donations. Whatever the truth, it means less food, more silence, and faces that vanish without farewell. You start to plan your exit. It won't be easy. You've grown weaker, slower, but you've survived. And every night, as the bell threatens to toll, as children cough and scrape their bowls for the memory of a meal, you promise yourself something. You won't die in here. You won't let them decide when your story ends. You press the whistle to your lips. No sound. But the next morning, carved into the beam above your cot, are 3 words. Whisper is watched. She appears without a word, a hard-eyed woman with forearms like tree limbs, and a shawl that smells of boiled ash. The washerwoman. No one tells you her name, just that she's here for a pick. She walks through the dormitory, inspecting the children like bruised apples. She picks you. Maybe it's the way you don't flinch when she yanks your sleeve. Maybe it's the glint in your eye. Or maybe you think it's just your turn. She signs something in the logbook with a wax seal, red, stamped with a bird. And just like that, you're no longer 37. You're just the boy with the strong back. No goodbye from Yuta. No whistle-blown farewell. She doesn't see you leave. The washerwoman doesn't speak for hours. You trudge behind her across the cobbled streets through the southern gate and down a muddy path leading out of the city proper. The air is cleaner here, but sharper. Brambles snag your ankles. Your shoes fall apart halfway there. She doesn't offer help. You pass low huts, wooden fences, a pig with one ear chewing something that might once have been cloth. Finally, you reach a squat, slate-roofed cottage with steam rising from a chimney and a dozen linen sheets flapping on ropes like surrender flags. Her name, it turns out, is Magda. She has one rule. No bleeding in the whites, she says. You'll learn quickly what she means. You spend your first day hauling buckets from the river. Cold, slick heavy. Your hands blister by the hour. The wash tub smells like vinegar and cabbage. You stir it with a wooden paddle taller than you. Later, you scrub clothes with soap that burns your skin. Whites, grays, darks. Wool, linen mystery fabrics caked in things you stop trying to identify. Keep your spit off the silks, Magda says. You're not sure she's joking. At night, you sleep in a loft above the hearth. Mice run over your legs. The beams creak like they're remembering their days as trees. But you have warmth, a crust of bread, even stew once. Magda doesn't smile, doesn't explain. But she doesn't hit, doesn't starve, doesn't sell. That alone makes her a kind of miracle. Still, it's not freedom. Not really. She's registered as a licensed child employer. A real thing. There are scrolls and seals and forms involved. You're now legally a washer's boy grade 3. That means you can be beaten, fined, or returned like a broken broom. Historians still debate whether such rural labor placements were opportunities or just more elegant forms of child servitude. In wealthier cities, children in these roles sometimes advanced learned trades, earned coin, even inherited small shops. But in most cases, the lucky ones just worked until they broke. Still, you learn how to stir the pot without burning the soap, how to fold sheets with sharp corners, how to duck when Magda hurls a boot for missing a sock. There's a rhythm to it. Sweat, scrape, sleep. Wake, haul, scrub. You begin to grow stronger. Your ribs vanish under a sheen of new muscle. Your hands become hard. And for the first time in your memory, your voice stops shaking when you speak. More ash, Magda mutters one morning, inspecting a yellowed tunic. You add more lye. Stir faster. She grunts. That's as close to approval as she gets. One afternoon, while hauling dry linens inside before the rain, you notice something strange. A mark on the inside collar of a shirt, a symbol drawn in old red ink, almost faded, a crooked eye inside a circle. You blink. You've seen it before, on the bell tower, on a post behind the cathedral, on the wooden handle of a child's toy you once stole. You say nothing, but you fold the shirt carefully as if it's made of whispers. That night, after Magda snores herself into oblivion, you sneak outside. You breathe the cool country air, feel the mud between your toes, and you wonder, what is that symbol? A secret society? A warning or a path? In the distance, the city glows faintly like an ember refusing to die. You miss it. The filth, the brotherhood, even Sister Bertilde in a twisted way. But most of all, you miss the sense of being in it, part of something. Here you are, a boy-shaped tool, cared for, sure, sharpened, but never asked who you are, what you want. If you dream, you look at your hands, cracked, strong, capable of more than laundry. You think of the toy soldier. You think of the girl in the infirmary with the tin whistle. You think, maybe this isn't where your story ends. You never mean to get kicked out. It just happens. Magda's rule. No bleeding in the whites, you follow it to the letter. But you can't help the fact that the client, a pompous spice merchant, left crushed cloves in his underthings. You scrub too hard. The oils smear. He returns 3 days later, furious, waving the stained fabric like a banner of war. Magda glares at you while he rants. You brace yourself for the kick, the slap, the banishment. Instead, Magda mutters, "Get out." That's it. No lecture. No warning. Just the door. You stand outside her cottage with your bundle, a crust of bread, your toy soldier, the tin whistle stuffed into a potato sack. She doesn't meet your eyes when she shuts the door. The birds chirp like they're mocking you. The walk back to the city takes hours, long enough to doubt everything. Was the Brotherhood still alive? Did Liskin remember you? Did Yuta even know you were gone? You reach the city gates at dusk. The guards let you pass with a look. You're the right kind of invisible, but Bruges has changed. There's a tension in the air. More patrols, fewer people, smiling prices higher. The orphan packs seem thinner. Maybe smarter. Or maybe just fewer of them left. You wander the familiar alleys. The old fish market where you once slept has been boarded over. The bakery you stole, crusts from gone. Burned out. Replaced by a pawn shop. Eventually, you return to the Brotherhood's last known haunt, a ruined wine cellar near the docks. No one's there. Just the scent of mold and ghosts. Then footsteps. You turn fast, ready to run. But the figure is smaller than you. It's Bram, older, leaner. He grins like he hasn't aged a day. "Well, well," he says, arms crossed. Whisper comes crawling home. You don't speak, but he sees it in your eyes. Relief, and something like shame. He shrugs. We're still around, just less loud. Liskin runs things from the chimneys now. The chimneys. Turns out, the Brotherhood's grown smarter. Liskin has moved operations to a stretch of abandoned rooftops above the cloth market. They call it the smoke walk. Children crawl through soot-stained flues, sleep in venting shafts, and keep watch from chimney caps like little ghosts in ash. Bram leads you up a crumbling stairwell, across a ledge, and through a gap in a broken dormer window. Inside, it's warm. Dozens of kids, smaller than you remember, lie curled in heaps of rags. Some draw maps in soot on the floor. One girl is painting symbols on a wooden spoon with berry juice. Liskin is here too. Her scar is longer, her gaze sharper. She nods once when she sees you. No names, she says softly. Not even old ones. You nod back. You're not Whisper anymore. Not 37. Not the washer's boy. Just you. You relearn the city. The Brotherhood's new tricks are cleverer than ever. They trade chalk for coin. They rig buckets on ropes to ferry food between rooftops. They scavenge dead birds and turn feathers into quills for scholars too proud to pluck their own geese. You help. You earn your keep. But something's different now. You start asking questions. Why are so many children gone? Why are the guards so nervous lately? Why are merchants whispering about sweeps and roundups and disappearances? One night, Liskin takes you aside. They're clearing the city, she says. Not just us. Beggars, the sick, the old. Why? New mayor, she replies. Wants to look civilized before the bishop visits. It's always like that. Power shifts, people vanish. But there's something worse. Liskin takes you to a side room, what used to be a bell ringer's station. She shows you a wall, covered in parchment scraps. Each one lists a name, a mark, or a symbol. These are the ones who didn't come back, she says. We mark them. We remember. You see your own name. Not Whisper, not 37, but your real one. Faint. Inked in with a question mark. You point. She shrugs. We hoped. There's a moment, a pause in the world where your heart swells. Someone remembered you. Someone hoped. But that same night, a runner arrives with bad news. One of the younger boys, Tibby, was taken. Not by guards. Not by gangs. By men with clean boots and black gloves. You all go quiet. Bram whispers. The ones with the sealed cart? Liskin nods. You've heard the rumor. Children taken not to prisons, but to places that don't exist on maps. Workhouses overseas, ships, maybe even black market scholars. Historians still debate whether such abductions were real or merely urban myths. Some say there's no record. Others claim the records were burned. You decide something that night. You're done being a scrap of cloth tossed between hands. It's time to find out where the missing go. And if you're strong enough now, maybe bring some back. It starts with a smell. Not a foul one for once, but a thick chemical sweetness drifting through the alleys near the tanner's quarter. You follow it instinctively, ducking under carts and between crates, ignoring Bram's warnings to stay clear of that part of the city. The tanner's quarter is where dreams go to rot. The air there burns your nose, urine-soaked. Hides steaming in the sun, animal fat boiling in giant vats, flies thick as wool. It's where the poor become poorer and children disappear like dropped coins into sewer grates. But it's also where things are hidden. Liskin once said, if someone wants to do something illegal and disgusting, chances are it smells like leather. She wasn't wrong. You move carefully. No one makes eye contact here. Everyone's busy with their own filth. But you see it beneath a canvas awning behind a stack of rotting pelts. There's a cart. Big, iron-wheeled, closed. A sealed cart. Your breath stops. You crouch, watch. Two men in black gloves, just like the runner described, hoist a struggling bundle into the back. It moves. It's small. It doesn't scream. A boy. A girl. You freeze. There's a third man, younger. His gloves are clean, too clean. He wears a velvet collar, despite the filth around him. He glances around fast, nervous, and pulls something from under his cloak, a scroll. Sealed with wax. He passes it to a fourth figure, short-hunched, hidden in shadow. You blink. It's gone. You make your way back to the Brotherhood by moonlight, soaked to the knees from slipping in tannery runoff. The stench clings to your skin like betrayal. Bram helps you clean up. What did you see, he asks. You tell him everything. Liskin listens silently. Then she sends out 4 runners. Within 2 days, a plan forms. You'll infiltrate the tanner's quarter, not to steal, but to work. You'll become part of it. Find out where the carts go, who orders them, who signs the scrolls. So you go back. You pretend to be just another boy, desperate for work. You limp, you cough, you lie. They take you in, not because they trust you, but because no one else wants the job. You spend your days stirring urine barrels with wooden poles. Your nights sweeping bones from under tables. Your clothes are crusted with things that used to be animals. You barely sleep. You eat scraps. But you listen, and slowly things surface. There's a man named Karst. He runs the removal schedule. No one sees him arrive. He never speaks above a whisper. Children vanish when he's in town. There's a ledger, hidden. You see it once when someone forgets to lock a drawer. You catch glimpses, dates, symbols, initials. One entry reads CR. 2 units, clean cart, dusk. You memorize what you can. One day, a boy younger than you, no name, only a lazy eye and a necklace made of chicken bones, is told to wait for the wagon. You never see him again. That night, you break into the supply shed. Inside, crates of shackles, rags, sedatives. This isn't just a tannery. This is a pipeline. Historians still debate whether such systems ever officially existed. But there are undeniable records of medieval cities outsourcing child labor to distant estates. Foreign ships, even proto-industrial ventures in Flanders and beyond. One traveler from 1482 noted seeing a barge of boys bound for the English mills like sheep to slaughter. You return to the Brotherhood with everything you've learned. Liskin's face is pale. This isn't just our city, she says. It's bigger. She rolls out a stolen map. Pins mark other cities, Ghent, Antwerp, Leuven, each with rumors, carts, disappearances. We're not just rats in walls, she says. We're cargo. So you plan again. But this time, it's not about escape. It's about sabotage. You decide to ruin Karst's next shipment. You don't tell all the children. Too risky. Just a few Bram Liskin Geert, still one-eyed now with a wicked knife, and a girl named Meryl, who's never spoken, but can pick a padlock in 3 seconds. The plan is simple. Intercept the cart. Free the children. Burn the ledger. It's not a happy plan. It's not a clean one. But it's something. The night before the mission, you sit on the rooftop of the cloth market with Bram. He hands you a crust. You could have stayed with Magda, he says. I did, you say? And I came back. He nods. Why? You don't answer. But in your pocket, you hold the toy soldier. Its paint is chipped, its arm cracked, but it still stands. The night air stings your face as you crouch in the shadows behind the dye shop, watching the alley where Karst's cart is supposed to pass. Everything smells like copper and vinegar, soured dyes, rusted nails, something worse underneath. You hold your breath and wait. Geert is hidden 2 stories up, nestled in a shattered chimney. Bram crouches behind a butcher's barrel. Meryl has already slithered into position near the tannery's lower gate, silent as a falling feather. Liskin is nowhere in sight on purpose. She's the ghost, in the plan, the shadow behind the shadows. You've been training for this all week. Roots codes, fallback signals. No one knows what happens if it goes wrong. No one talks about it. Then the cart arrives. It's exactly as you described: iron wheels, thick wood. 2 black-gloved men. One rides, one walks. The reins are taut. The horses look too well fed. You count to 5. Bram throws the first stone. It clatters loudly against a side wall, an echo bouncing off bricks like a scream. The walker turns. You move. You dart from your hiding place, cross the alley low and fast, and dive under the cart. A rusted bolt sticks into your back. You fight to ignore it. You find the rear latch. It's locked. 3 quick taps. Meryl appears, small hands, sharp fingers, one bent hairpin. She works fast. The door creaks open. Inside, 4 children. Gagged. Tied. One isn't moving. Your heart races. You climb up, slice the ropes with the jagged tin you've hidden in your belt for months. The driver yells. Geert lets fly a stone from above square into the rider's jaw. Chaos erupts. Bram charges the walker, who pulls a dagger. Meryl lunges for the reins. You pull one child free, then another. The third is limp. Too limp. Liskin appears, then out of nowhere like fog. She leaps onto the cart, grabs the ledger bag, slung under the driver's seat, and vanishes into the smoke of her own distraction. A flaming rag she planted earlier in the dye shop. The cart lights, screams, horses rear, the sky glows orange. You grab the last child alive. Barely. Run, feet pounding cobbles. Smoke behind you. Bram shouts. Meryl laughs, an unhinged wild thing. Geert scrambles down and hurls another rock for good measure. You vanish into the alleys. No one follows. The Brotherhood meets back at the smoke walk by midnight. The rescued children are safe. One will need time. The limp one, he stirs, but barely. You wrap him in your own blanket. Liskin dumps the ledger on the floor. Inside names, numbers, symbols, cities, contracts, one marked with a strange phrase, to be held for foreign study, CR only. You ask what CR means. Liskin doesn't answer, but she looks shaken. Historians still debate the meaning of those abbreviations in early child labor ledgers. Some argue they refer to cities Calais-Rouen. Others believe they refer to people, patrons, nobles, or even private scholars funding secret anatomical experiments. One theory claims it stood for controlled removal, an early euphemism for sanctioned disappearance. You're quiet the rest of the night. Later, when the others sleep, you sit by the rescued boy. He sleeps soundly now, clutching your toy soldier in one hand. You press the tin whistle to your lips, still silent. But this time, it doesn't matter. You've made noise in the real world. The next morning, the Brotherhood is already planning again. They're different now, sharper, angry, brave. Geert suggests ambushing another cart. Meryl volunteers to steal guard schedules. Bram draws a map in soot on the rooftop chimney. You watch them and realize you're no longer just surviving. You're fighting back, and somewhere deep in the city, people are already whispering about the fire in the dye shop, about the missing cart, about the children who vanished, and the ones who didn't. You smile just a little. They'll remember you now, not as a number, not as whisper, but as resistance. The apprenticeship lottery is supposed to be a golden opportunity. That's what the city criers call it. A chance for the deserving to rise from the gutter into a proper trade. But everyone in the Brotherhood knows what it really is. A gamble. Once a year, the Guild Council selects a handful of street-trained children to test for indenture into one of the crafts: blacksmithing, weaving, dye-making, or stonework. They don't do it out of kindness. They do it to pacify the people, to make it look like children like you have a future. You're chosen this year, not because you volunteered, but because Liskin insists. It's not just about you, she says. If one of us gets in, we learn how the guilds work. We get someone on the inside. The test day arrives. You stand in a line of 20 children outside the tall wooden hall of the Dyer's Guild. The building smells of hot iron, animal glue, and old blood. Banners hang overhead heavy with the insignias of tradesmen you'll never meet. Each child is called forward. Some are asked to sew a perfect hem, others to measure dye with steady hands. One boy is told to stack bricks in a precise pattern while being shouted at by a red-faced foreman. Your task? Spinning. Spinning wool into thread. Easy, they say. They hand you a spindle and a basket of greasy fleece. You haven't done this since the foundling home. Your fingers shake. You start anyway. Twist, pull, wrap, breathe. It's like trying to wrangle smoke, but slowly your hands remember. The rhythm returns rough and fragile like a heartbeat learning to walk. You ignore the foreman's grunts. You ignore the merchant sneering at your bare feet. You spin until the wool becomes thread, and the thread coils like memory around the spindle. When you finish, no one claps, but no one stops you either. Later, you wait in a narrow antechamber with 3 other finalists. A girl from the fish quarter who smells like salt and defiance, a boy who claims to be 13, but whose hands are like stones, and a quiet child who doesn't speak, just stares. A clerk enters, scroll in hand. He reads out the names. One is yours. You've been accepted, sworn to the spindle. Historians still debate how often these apprenticeships help children escape poverty. Some rose to become journeymen, even masters. Others, particularly orphans, were treated as cheap labor, hidden in back rooms, never taught enough to pass their final tests. Records were misplaced, promises broken. But for now, this is your path. You're brought to a workshop on the edge of the city, a long windowless building buzzing with wheels and steam. Dozens of apprentices sit in rows, turning thread, weaving fabric, boiling dye. The master is a tall woman with soot-streaked sleeves and sharp eyes. She introduces herself only as Mevrouw Els. She wastes no time. You work until your fingers forget their fingers, she says. You eat when I tell you. You sleep when I let you. You learn or you leave. There are rules, endless ones. Thread must be exactly so many turns per inch. You must wash your hands with vinegar, not water. If you sneeze into the fiber, it's burned. Mistakes mean punishment, extra shifts, reduced rations, being locked in the spool room. But there are no beatings, no chains. And strangely, Mevrouw Els never yells. She just watches. Every night, you fall into a bed of straw fingers, aching, eyes dry. But something about the rhythm, spinning, stretching, breathing, gives you space to think. You learn more than thread. You watch how deliveries come in, which merchants bring the good dye, where they store the keys, who signs the forms. You write nothing down, but you remember. One day you spot a familiar mark on a delivery sack, a crooked eye in a circle. It's the same as the shirt you found at Magda's. Later, you sneak into the back storeroom and find the merchant's tag, CR74, transport verified. There it is again, CR, and below it, authorized by Alder Ringheer. You recognize that name. Liskin once mentioned him. One of the city's quiet lords, rich, faceless, invisible in daylight. Suddenly it all fits. The sealed carts, the foreign study labels, the cleaned up streets, the children vanishing without noise. They're not just being taken, they're being sorted. Some to factories, some to ships, some to something worse. You start to stash scraps of thread, tiny bits of ink, notes carved into the underside of your workbench. And at night, when Mevrouw Els believes you're asleep, you slip out the side door and head for the smoke walk. You haven't forgotten the brotherhood, and they haven't forgotten you. One night, as you hand Bram a stolen inventory scroll, he grins. Spindle boy with secrets, he says. You smile back. Spindle boy with leverage. This isn't survival anymore. This is infiltration. This is a plan. After dark, the workshop becomes a different world. By day, it's all clatter and control wheels spinning, masters barking, apprentices counting threads like their futures depend on it. And let's be honest, they do. But once the last spindle slows, and Mevrouw Els retreats behind her locked study door. The apprentices shift into something else entirely. They breathe, and they begin the lantern games. It starts with a single spark. Someone lights a stub of wax under a tin cup, shielding the glow like a priest hiding a sin. Then quiet chatter, coded knocks. Games you don't quite understand at first. You're invited in slowly. Your first task: remember 3 riddles, whispered by 3 different apprentices across the floor, and repeat them back with the correct answers before your candle burns out. You pass. The next night, you're told to draw a map of the workshop, blindfolded based on sound alone. It's not about memory, they say. It's about trusting your ears over your eyes. You pass that too. And then you're allowed into the real tradition, the ciphers. Children pass. Scraps of thread, braided into codes. Different colors mean different meanings. Red thread for warnings. Green for supplies. Blue for I saw something strange. There's even a black and yellow twist. Don't trust the new boy. You earn your own thread, silver and gray, twisted just so. It means safe courier. They begin giving you notes. Short, strange phrases. Some are just nonsense games. Others are real. You deliver one to a girl in the die wing, and the next day she's gone. Not vanished, freed. You don't ask how. You don't need to. The games aren't just play. They're practice. Secret messages, silent movements, coded glances. Training for children who've never known safety, learning to carve it out for themselves in places no adult would think to look. And as these rituals grow, so do the myths. There's a tale of a boy who memorized the guild's secret payroll and held it hostage until his friends were released. Another of a girl who snuck into the bishop's carriage and replaced his speech with a manifesto about orphan mistreatment. Some of them are definitely lies, but you cling to the maybe, because maybe is enough. Historians still debate how much organized resistance existed among child laborers in the 15th century. Letters from workshop masters sometimes reference unrest or discipline issues, but rarely explain what that meant. One surviving parchment from Ghent mentions a sequence of defiance among the younger hands that resulted in a mysterious fire and 6 apprentices fleeing. You and the Brotherhood now communicate by lanterns placed in workshop windows. 1 flicker, all's well. 2 flickers, information ready. 3 trouble. One night you see 3 flickers. You run. Liskin meets you in the alley behind the spice market, wrapped in a gray cloak with soot on her cheeks. We lost one, she says. Who? Myrrel. Your stomach drops. She was caught mapping the sealed cart route in Leuven, Liskin says quietly. They're sending her to a workhouse in Dinan. Or worse. A silence hangs. What can we do? She looks at you. That depends. How fast can you spin a lie that looks like paperwork? So begins your greatest trick yet. You forge a transfer scroll. Not flawless. Your ink smudges, your seal is too clean, but good enough. You authorize Myrrel's move to a master weaver in Bruges. You even attach one of Mevrouw Els's real trade stamps swiped during cleaning duty. Then Bram smuggles it to the guard at the Leuven checkpoint. A bribe helps. 3 days later, Myrrel is back. Bruised, quiet, alive. You don't hug her. That's not her way. But she passes you a single twist of red thread and nods. Thank you. Later that night, back at the workshop, one of the newer apprentices asks you what the Brotherhood is. You pretend not to hear, but in your pocket, you now carry more than a toy soldier and a tin whistle. You carry threads of rebellion stitched into rags and rules into wheels and whispers. A loom isn't just for cloth after all. It can also weave networks. The knock on the guild door is soft, but it echoes like thunder. You're halfway through threading your loom when Mevrouw Els pauses. Her head tilts just slightly. You've learned that's the only warning she ever gives before something changes. She turns to the apprentices. Out. All of you. Workshop closed. The other children don't question it. They scatter like startled pigeons. You wait, pretending to fumble with a spool until her gaze meets yours. She doesn't nod. She doesn't smile. But you understand, Go. You slip out the side. From the shadows of a nearby drain pipe, you watch two figures enter the workshop. One tall and cloaked in dark wool, the other short, wearing a noble's seal on a thick chain. You recognize the emblem ring here. The alderman. The same name from the CR-tagged shipment ledger. You strain to hear. They speak in Latin, fast, coded, but one phrase cuts through clear and low. The boy in this district is not ordinary. Your breath catches. They're talking about you. You're not afraid. Not anymore. What you feel is colder, calculated. You step away, slowly vanish into the fog, curling between the buildings, and head straight for the smoke walk. The Brotherhood is already gathered. Liskin stands in front of a soot-streaked chimney, her voice low but firm. It's not just shipments, she says. It's lists, records. They're tracking those who think too fast, move too quietly, speak too little. You step forward. They're scared, you say. Geert chuckles. They should be. You unroll the crumpled sketch you made of the sealed shipment route, copied over weeks of watching die deliveries, guard rotations, merchant stops. At the top, you've written, Ring here, Els, Leuven, transfer point below. That marked CR. Liskin reads it twice, then tears it in half. We're not hiding anymore, she says. The plan forms quickly. This time, it's not a rescue. It's an exposure. You'll infiltrate the next city council procession, an over-decorated parade of pious nobles and fat aldermen pretending to care about the poor. Every apprentice is required to march or stand on the sidelines with baskets of flowers or tools of their trade. You're assigned to the textile cart. It's perfect. Merrill and Bram join you hidden in plain sight among the parade helpers. Liskin will be among the crowd, wearing a baker's apron. Geert's job's simple, loud. He lights a fuse behind the candle vendor 2 streets down. The explosion is small enough to spook horses grab attention. Guards scatter. In the chaos you move. You climb onto the cart, shouting over the din, and hurl a black cloth sack into the street. It bursts open. Hundreds of torn parchment scraps scatter into the wind. Ledgers, shipment schedules, marked symbols, notes in Mevro Els's handwriting. Real names, real codes, real crimes. People scream. Not in fear, but in confusion. A noble stumbles over a scroll marked Child R, remove quietly. A monk picks up a record with CR, accepted quota 4 this quarter. The crowd surges. Renghir's name appears on half a dozen tags. No one in the crowd knows what CR stands for, but suddenly, everyone wants to. You vanish into the smoke, along with the rest of the Brotherhood. No one saw your face, but the city saw the truth. Later that night, you sit high on the cloth hall roof, looking down at the guild banners still flapping over empty stalls. Liskin joins you, tossing you a crust of fresh bread. Well, she says, you're not just a spindle boy anymore. You shrug. Never was. She leans back. They'll come for us harder now. Let them. Why do this? She asks softer now. Why keep risking everything? You look out over Bruges. The city that fed you lies, that hurt you, that tried to file you down to nothing. You hold up your toy soldier. It's broken, you say, but it still stands. That night, the Brotherhood sings, softly, an old tune about a chimney sweep and a noble's daughter who ran off together to start a bakery and never looked back. It's nonsense. It's beautiful. The lanterns flicker like stars trapped in jars, and in that moment, the city, rotten, heavy, cruel, feels just a little lighter, like maybe, just maybe, change is possible. The snow starts in whispers, a flake on your shoulder, another on your brow. Then a gentle dusting, turning alleys into sketches and rooftops into ghostly shapes. By morning, Bruges is a city muffled in white, and for children like you, that means danger. Snow shows footprints. Snow makes noise. Snow kills quietly. The Brotherhood retreats to its highest nest, the bell loft of the abandoned northern chapel. No longer used by priests, it's now yours. A secret sanctuary of rags, rope, and warm breath pressed shoulder to shoulder under broken beams. The bell itself is cracked. When it rings in the wind, it sounds more like a sigh than a chime. Liskin calls it our winter heart. You spend days indoors wrapped in stitched-together cloaks. You take turns boiling onion skins for soup. You make dice from dried beans. You tell stories, but the city never sleeps. Rumors reach you even through the snow. The aldermen are hiring new guards. The Weavers' Guild is being audited. Mevrou Els has vanished. Some say she was arrested. Others say she ran. Bram jokes that she finally joined a circus for bitter women. But the biggest whisper, a name, Karst. He's back. 3 children missing from the fish quarter. 1 from the bell foundry. A chalk symbol found near the canal. That same eye in a circle smeared in soot. He's taking again. Liskin looks at the Brotherhood thinner. Now, older, quieter, and says no more. No more waiting. No more hiding. It's time to leave. Not flee. Break out. You help plan it. It's not a dream. It's a pact. You call it the Snowfall Pact. Here's the plan. On the coldest night of the season, when most guards stay in and the noble houses close their shutters tight, you'll move. 3 children at a time. Quiet fast, along a route you've been mapping all year. Liskins mapped the sewer outflow paths. Bram bribed a stable hand for a mule cart. Geert forged gate papers, crudely but convincingly. You're in charge of the children. You'll lead them. Whisper quiet. Tin whistle ready. Soldier in your pocket. You spend a week preparing. Wrapping feet in cloth. Teaching signals. Packing dried bread and lard. Then the night comes. White. Still. Like the world is holding its breath. You whisper to each child as you wake them. Now. Meryl carries the first pair through the dye quarter. Bram takes the second wave through the alley behind the perfumery. Your group leaves last. You carry a boy barely old enough to walk, and a girl who still dreams of her mother every night. You know this route. You've walked it in your mind 100 times, past the blacksmith, under the crumbling bridge, through the graveyard. A dog barks once. You freeze. Snow crunches under someone else's boots. Guards. You press the children down into a crypt hole, no time to hide yourself. A torch swings past. Light hits your face, but it's not a guard. It's a beggar, drunk, muttering. He stares at you. You stare back. He nods, says nothing, and keeps walking. Sometimes the city forgets its own rules. You move again. At the sewer grate, Liskin is waiting. All the children are there. All but one group Geert's. 10 minutes pass, then 20. Then you see a flash of yellow thread on the rooftop above. Geert's signal delay. Then a second flash route burned. A third go without me. Liskin looks at you. You look back and say nothing, because sometimes you have to leave someone behind, even when it hurts more than frostbite. You help lift the children into the cart. The mule grumbles but walks. Slowly, the cart wheels turn. The sky lightens. You make it to the city's edge just as the eastern tower bell rings dawn. You made it. Not all, but most. Historians still debate the number of child escapes from guild-controlled cities. Most agree they were rare and rarely successful. But some records scribbled in margins or hidden in secret church logs suggest that more than a few groups disappeared, leaving behind only scraps of thread, soot symbols, and rumors that would never quite die. At the river's edge, you light a candle stub. It barely burns in the wind, but it's enough. The Brotherhood survived. The snow falls harder now, erasing your tracks, covering the past, and offering you just barely a path forward. The first few days outside Bruges feel like stepping into a dream you're not sure how to wake from. No bell towers, no patrols, No cries in the night that make your stomach knot. Just fields, birds, mud, and the slow, relentless crunch of cartwheels on frozen earth. The mule whom Bram names Tallow refuses to hurry. You don't blame her. None of you are in any shape to rush. You count the children every morning. 9. Then 8. One turns back after a fever, escorted by Liskin. Then 9. Again. Geert rejoins you, limping pale, but somehow grinning like he just outwitted death herself. He never explains how. No one asks. There's no plan beyond the escape. You sleep in barns, in hollow trees. Once inside the shell of a burned-out windmill that groans with every breeze. You tell stories to keep the children from crying. You joke with Bram to keep yourself from breaking. And at night, when the stars come out, you lie awake clutching the tin whistle and the wooden soldier wondering what comes next. Then, on the 7th day, you reach the village of Weinholt. It's barely more than a church and 5 huts, but it feels different. The villagers don't chase you off. One old woman gives you cheese rinds. A man offers water from his well. And the baker, a broad-shouldered man with flour in his beard, says something that stuns you. You need a place. I've got room in the loft. You can help knead, just like that. No test, no ledger, no thread of chains. It's not perfect. The work is hot, and your hands swell from the dough. The children get colds, scrapes, arguments. One breaks a tooth on a stone baked into a crust, but it's safe. For the first time, no one wakes up screaming. One evening, Liskin calls a meeting under the old oak tree by the pasture. The sun is setting. It turns her face gold and her scar soft. She looks at all of you lean, strange, soot-streaked survivors. This isn't just a pause, she says. This is a beginning. You nod, slowly, because it feels true. Merrill wants to start a message chain smuggling notes sewn into hems of second-hand coats sold back to Bruges. Geert is already building a rooftop watch perch just in case. Bram is collecting every rumor about child labor reform from passing monks and merchants. And you've been writing. In charcoal, in crusty ink, on the back of flour sacks. Everything that happened. The cart, the bell room, the ciphers, the symbol with the eye. You want it recorded. You want it remembered. Because the city will tell its own story. It will say, you were thieves, runaways, lost causes. But your version, yours, will speak of resistance, of secret games, of children with no names becoming legends by whisper and by will. Historians still debate whether these outcast children ever truly organized beyond the cities. Some say they became bandits. Others believe they scattered, swallowed by poverty and time. But a few surviving letters unsigned, marked only by a twist of gray thread, suggest otherwise. Years from now, a traveler will find an orphanage built beside the Weinholt River. Simple. Safe. Inscribed above the gate. No names, no numbers, only stories. And below that, carved into the wood, a whisper can grow into thunder if it survives the silence. But for now, you sleep in the hayloft, surrounded by breathing, dreaming children. You hold your toy soldier. You clutch the tin whistle. Still silent, still whole, but not alone. Not anymore. The days grow longer. The snow melts into rivulets that chase each other down the hills behind the village, carving quiet trails into the soft earth. Spring creeps in, not with fanfare, but with subtle confidence buds on branches. Frog song at dusk, children's laughter, not sharp with hunger, but warm with play. You've begun sleeping through the night. No sudden alarms. No freezing wind slicing your ribs. No jolts of panic from dreams that feel too real. Your fingers still twitch. Sometimes muscle memory. From the spindle, from the scrubbing, from the always waiting for pain that shaped your bones. But you wake slowly now. Safely. In sun or in lantern light, with the smell of warm bread floating up from below. It's strange how healing feels less like triumph and more like forgetting what pain used to be. You keep writing, not for glory, not for revenge, for memory. Each story you record, the laundress's vinegar, the cracked bell tower, the flicker code on chimneys, is a thread in something larger, something stronger than the silence that tried to erase you. Bram reads your pages one night and says, "If I didn't know better, I'd think we were heroes." You smile. "We were children," you say. But maybe that's what makes it matter. Liskin, ever cautious, helps you bind the pages in waxed linen. You hide the bundle under the floorboards of the bakery next to the sacks of barley. Safe. Waiting. The village changes with you. The baker opens a second oven. A passing friar helps build a small schoolhouse where the children, your children, learn to read using old guild ledgers and bread rations as math tokens. Even Meryl teaches the littlest ones how to braid thread and how to untangle it again in case the knots ever become chains. One quiet evening, you return to the riverbank. It's warmer now. The reeds whisper, the breeze strokes your cheek like a memory too soft to name. You pull out the tin whistle. It's still silent. You knew it would be. But tonight, you don't blow it. You just hold it and whisper, not to summon anyone, not to cry for help, but simply to say, "I made it." You sit there for a long time, watching the water flow. And when the stars prick the sky open again, you say the words you've practiced in your head for what feels like years. "Thank you for being with me through every emotion, every wonderful moment of this journey. It has been an adventure, and I am so grateful to have shared it with you." As we close this story, I wish you a peaceful evening filled with dreams, filled with wonder and goodness. Rest well, you deserve it. And when you are ready for the next story, I will be here waiting to accompany you again. The breeze carries the last word into the trees. You rise and walk back home,